All right. And we are live. Wait for a few people to start showing up. All right, welcome to Book Talk on Book Talk. This is our 13th episode, and we are very excited. We've got our first guest I'm ready to invite. We've got 3 confirmed guests, and may or may not be able to join us depending on their internet situation. And isn't that always the case with an internet show? Hi, Jennifer.
Hi.
All right, we can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Excellent. All right, so we have Jennifer Saviano. She's with us, and she's the author of the Savior romance books. And they look like they are spicy romance, but why don't you let us know what sort of subgenre that your books fit into?
They are romantic suspense. There's spice in them, though that is not the focus of the story. It's kind of just like a bonus.
Gotcha, romantic suspense.
Yeah.
Love it.
It's definitely more heavily focused on character development and plot. But it is MC romance, so it's kind of unique to the genre in both its content and like the length of the books.
Gotcha. Yeah, because romantic suspense, generally is more of a fade to black genre. So how do you go about balancing, what those kind of readers want versus the spicy elements that you have?
Well, this might sound a little bit selfish. I wrote the books because I wanted to write them. I wrote them the way I wanted to write them. When I published Savior Book 1, I didn't even know BookTok was a thing. I didn't have TikTok. So, and I was worried it was going to be too dark, but then I got on TikTok and I was like, I am so safe.
Well, those books that you write because you want to are usually the ones that end up finding the audience you want, and those are the most satisfying. And we have.
I've been very blessed with that. So far, most of my readers have loved it. I'm one of the lucky ones where I haven't been bombarded with, the negative reviews. And, negative reviews, that's subjective, I guess. But it's been doing fairly well.
And the independent publishing, is so great for people who have stories they want to tell, and they get to tell it their way, and they don't have to worry about, the other sort of influences that are out there. All right, we've got both of your narrators are going to be with us, Paige and PJ. So PJ is getting invited. I imagine they'll probably be together.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Sure can.
All right, let me get my my video on. And no, we're not together. She's in another room entirely.
Oh, there
she
you
can
go.
be here.
I mean, however y'all want to do it. It's
bring me the sippy cup.
You got to say hi. Come here, say hi.
I'll be there in a minute. I'm getting him wine in a sippy cup.
See, that's what we have.
Are you in the booth, PJ?
Yeah, I'm in the booth. But she won't let me have an open glass.
Sippy cup comes in.
Yeah. But it's a Savior sippy cup, so it's okay.
Yay!
Hey, there you go. I don't have caffeine today. I have water in a book that was a Christmas gift a while ago. It's got my book cover and my name on it from my debut, Deep Background.
Cool.
So that's fun. I had misplaced it, but I recently found it. So this is my version of a sippy cup.
Love it.
Well, this is the voice of Dean Keegan right here.
Yeah, this is it. This is what Dean Keegan sounds like.
And it looks like y'all are in the middle of narrating book 2 in the Savior series. Is that right?
We are. We have finished doing all of the recording, and now it's at the engineer right now.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, fingers crossed for late February, but you never know with ACX.
Very true.
All right, now Paige is going to join us, and KB Barrett's having trouble with her internet. So if she gets that worked out and sends me a request, I will definitely invite her on to join us. But this is nice having an author and the duo that's narrating her book, on the same show. So that should be interesting to talk about how everything came together. So Jennifer, you were saying, first of all, when did you publish the first book in the series, and what made you decide that you wanted to go ahead and put that out there on Amazon?
I think I published it in March of 2021, I think. I'd been like real sick for a long time, and I just kind of wanted to just have something out there that I created that I could just leave. And not to get dark, we'll just get right off of that topic.
No, I mean, it's,
I just figured take a shot. So I took a shot.
I was actually talking to someone pretty recently about that. How artists who put their work out there for public consumption, be it for sale or not, I think for most of us, that's a little bit part of it, is that we want to leave something behind of ourselves that shows our creative side. There are a lot of people out there who maybe are creative, who don't do that, who just do it for themselves and and only show maybe their friends and get that satisfaction. But I think for those of us who want to put our stuff out there for public consumption and criticism, that I think is part of it, is wanting to leave a little something behind. And there we go. We got Paige all set up. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well, thank you.
All right. And so what, Jennifer, one last question for you before we get to the voice actors. Whenever you started writing and you decided you wanted to publish, the first book, did you already know you wanted to do a series, and did you have all that planned out, or how did that work out for you?
I originally was just going to have Savior just the one book, which is why I put so much, I threw everything into it, which is kind of what added to the length of Savior book 1. But then I had a few people read it, and they fell in love with all the characters, wanted more. And surprisingly enough, the very background who wasn't in it that much, Legion, so many people fell in love with Legion and demanded for that story to play out further. So now it's a series.
Well, that's great that you. Thank you, Brooklyn Books, for sending gifts our way. I'll take this opportunity now that we have some people here and we have our guests with us. Thank you for being here. First of all, this is Book Talk on BookTok, where we talk about books and narration and creativity and all of the above, and art and cover art. If we get KB Barrett on with us, that's what she does. She does cover art and all kinds of art for authors. We love the gifts that you all send, and the likes. Tapping on the screen, that helps us get more visibility and have more people join the show. You can share this live with folks if you want, if you think they'll be interested, and have them join the conversation down in the comments with Tanya, who is the executive producer for this show, and she'll be answering questions people have and welcoming people and helping us out, because while we do, I do the interviews and you all talk, we can't always get to everybody who's down in the comments, especially when the show really gets going. So she does a great job helping us out there, and she books all my guests, and she's the person to talk to. So if you want to be on the show later this year, follow her and get in touch with her, and she's the one who can set all that stuff up. And thank you all for joining. We appreciate it. Paige, I have a question for you before we get into your combined efforts here with Jen. But I saw you posted recently that you had an opportunity come your way after trying out for one audio narration and having that not quite work out. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what's happened there?
Well, so actually, I have to credit Allie Dane for this. Who's another narrator on here, who started around the same time I did, and we've become really good friends. But John Marshall Media posted a casting announcement on Instagram for a historical fiction novel that required a British accent and a French accent. So I was like, oh, cool, I'll throw my hat in the ring, because my very first audiobook was historical fiction with a lot of French and British. I didn't get that, and it's cool. I saw who else was auditioning, or at least a few people who were auditioning, and I was like, yeah, they're better fits anyway. It's fine. But then today, John Marshall Media is like a casting media group. They reached out to me today and said, "Hey, Hachette Audio is interested in you narrating a nonfiction book that's 13.2 hours. What's your availability, and are you interested?" And I was like, yes, yes, I am. I haven't heard back, so no contracts have been signed because they were just asking my availability. But still, I was like, well, that's cool. I didn't expect a Big Five publisher to reach out to me when I'm only like, what is this, a year and a half into my narration career.
I'm not
So,
surprised.
That's
oh,
excellent.
thank you.
Oh man, that's even cooler than I thought it was going to be when I asked the question based on your video. That because yeah, Hachette is a big five. 13 hours. That's obviously a long book. So that I believe you said that was more hours than you were going to get for what you originally were trying out for.
It was about double what the first book was. So, but
That's
nonfiction, so actually would probably take the same amount of time to record because I don't have to worry about accents and that kind of thing. So,
true enough. True enough.
Hey, that first book that you were auditioning for, was that also a Hachette book?
no, it was for Brilliance.
So how did Hachette just happen to hear your voice? How does that happen?
John Marshall Media does casting for big publishers. So I sent my audition to John Marshall Media.
Yeah. So
Because they
they
really,
listened to you and they went, no, you want. So they told you think they told.
I don't know how they do it on the back end.
Yeah.
I don't know if they have like a panel of people who are like, oh, they'd be good for this, or if they're like, hey, this person might be good for that. I don't know.
I just want to come up with this whole the path for other narrators to find their way to a Big Five.
Well, what you do is you try out for a 1920s jazz age historical fiction, and you do British and you do French people with 3 different accents, and then they go, you know what? You'd be great at nonfiction holistic cancer treatment.
Obviously.
And it's just that easy. It's just that easy.
And of course, the real actual lesson is putting yourself out there for stuff. Oh, we got ourselves a crown. That's really awesome. Thank you.
Is that who's doing
Jay
that?
Cribbers, I appreciate that so much. And
That's our
yes,
girl.
Paige is the queen of narration for tonight for sure. But it's putting yourself out there, right? It's you try it out for one thing, even if that nice, even if that wasn't right for you, another opportunity happened, and that's true of life, right? I'm starting to try that a little more and figure that out because this is not necessarily breaking news, but I've kind of decided that I'm getting enough work and enough interest in my editing, both from individual authors and through the company I work for, that I think I'm going to focus on that for dealing with prose. And I have started working on screenplays and TV and movie scripts. And by chance, I know a few people who actually have some connections in that world. So I'm starting to send them my stuff, and they're starting to get interested. So, but I was talking with a guy today who's in that world, and that was sort of the lesson he had was, you put yourself out there and you talk to people who are in the industry, and even if you don't have what they want right now, they may know somebody who wants what you have, or you may have a project in mind that you started or that you have thought about that is what they're looking for, and you can work on that with the expectation that they're going to read it. So it's now they both have crowns. That is awesome. That is excellent.
They were both gifts from Jen, so
they were.
Yeah. Nice. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, you never know what you're going to be good at or what somebody will hear your voice, whether it be a speaking voice or a writing voice, and what they think it'll be good for, what they think you can do, or how they visualize it. You never know. So, I mean, I'm always pressuring friends. They're like, oh, that's not really the right fit for me. I'm like, you don't know that. You have no idea. I auditioned for YA, even though everyone's like, your voice is too low for YA. Well, you know what? I've landed 2 YA books. So maybe it's not my bread and butter, but I can still do them. So, and that's fine. That's fine.
So I do want to hear what the sort of the origin story is with you two working with Jennifer on her Savior books. How Jennifer, did you use ACX, or how did you end up finding this dynamic duo to narrate your books?
Well, I saw a video on TikTok that said that you should go on ACX and claim your book so that shenanigans can't be pulled with it. So I did. And then while I was on there, I was just like, you know what? It would be really cool to actually hear my characters come to life. So I just went for it. And I got a ton of auditions, even some real bikers. But I heard Paige first, and I loved her voice. But I really, really wanted like a dual narration, but like modified, but for artistic reasons. It's the Saviano method. People are copying it now. So I heard Paige, really loved Paige, definitely wanted a guy. So I asked Paige if she had a male she could narrate with. And she said she did. So PJ auditioned. And like I said, loved Paige's voice. But PJ, when he did Dean, it was a freaky experience. It was the voice in my head I heard when I was writing Dean. And everyone who's listened to the audiobook says the same thing. PJ is Dean, Dean is PJ. This was meant to be.
That's great.
The irony of this is, like, the very next book I get to do after doing Jen, I got the same response from the author, and that was for performing a miniature dog. Ideal for either a biker
He's very versatile.
or a very small dog.
One is just closer to his personality.
Well,
but then there were all the signs. There was Dean, what was it, written in cement? Like when you got out of your car, the name Dean. There's so many freaky coincidences. It was just too cool.
PJ had two people in his life named Ethan and Crystal, and there are two characters in the book named Ethan and Crystal. It was just a bunch of weirdness.
I believe in listening to the universe when it's trying to tell you something. I definitely have made decisions that way, and I like where I'm at in my life. So I think we have a commenter there. Are no coincidences. Those of us who write crime fiction, we have to, that's sort of a huge, commandment of the stories we write, is that there cannot be coincidences in your story. If anything happens, it has to, be on purpose, even if it seems like a coincidence. And that's actually a craft thing we work on, is making something seem like a coincidence when it can be. And of course, that's every homicide detective, they can't believe in coincidences. So, but in real life, that can be true. I cannot get over your crowns. I love it. See, props and great backgrounds are great. Tanya and I are working on getting me something better than what's back here that'll look more like a library or something. But see, I can't go into a sound booth with lights and all that kind of stuff. So you guys get to cheat a little bit. Although I really love Jen's background. Is that a green screen?
Yeah,
is that real? Like, what is that?
That's one of my merch items. It's my motorcycle club's MC logo.
That is great. That is spectacular. And
then, Paige is wearing it, and PJ's drinking out of it.
And see, I was wondering if those were if that sweater was the same, or if they just looked similar, because a lot of that a lot of books had that motorcycle club aesthetic. And then, obviously, did you hire somebody to do that specific art, or how did that go for you, Jen?
I searched high and low on like Shutterstock, whatever, and then I just purchased the extended licenses to tweak it and be able to do whatever I want with it to make merch and everything like that. So it's another artist. He also did the bad guys in my book, the Chrome Demons. That's his artwork also.
Excellent.
Wait, I have that. There's their logo.
Yeah, it's the Chrome Demons. That's Legion's crew.
Love it. And of course, in that biker culture, that kind of stuff is so important. It seems like of the things you have to invest in, as an independent author, as a small business owner, that would be, for your specific story, that would be crucial for your marketing and for your stuff is to have that very intricate, well done sort of MC art, as opposed to me, who that's just not a big part of my characters.
Mm-hmm. Well, I also kind of made them look, not really traditionally what actual biker clubs would wear, so that you don't get jumped for wearing it.
Well, I guess that makes sense. Yeah, you're looking out for your customers. Good thought process. I'm not sure if I would think about that or not. If I'd be, because it'd be like, all right, how authentic can I make this? That's usually where my brain goes. So good looking out.
But in reality, if I'm wearing a cut of the Savior's MC and I'm walking down the street, there's no one that's believing that I'm actually in. They're not like, hey, they know this is probably from a book.
That's definitely like accountants and treasurers and stuff. I mean, hey, that's
they need right.
Oh my gosh!
That biker aesthetic in real life.
What was that, Paige? I didn't hear you.
I said PJ just doesn't have that biker aesthetic in real life.
But what he does have is
has the voice, though.
PJ does have dedication to his craft, and I bring that up because one of your recent videos was you had a guy who was supposed to be talking with his mouth full, and then you went and actually ate something and then narrated it. And you know what? It's like, yes, of course. Why wouldn't you do that if you know in your story that somebody's talking with their mouth full and they're eating? Why would you not actually be eating while you're trying to narrate? But that I've definitely heard stories where that's obviously not the case. So I think that's awesome that you're thinking every line of dialogue, you're thinking deeply about exactly how to get that across in your narration.
Until you have to get the chewing noises out of the audio.
Right. Yeah, that's the hard part.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. So you guys just sent book 2 of Savior off to the engineer. You said what sort of stuff do you have to do on your own, and what sort of stuff are they expected to do? How does that balance work?
We actually we're about to send them back. I'm going through and listening to all of his pickups to make sure that they are actually corrected pickups. But yeah, so we record everything, and then to make it a little bit cheaper, I actually spliced our tracks together. And then sent them to the engineer. And then, if they go through it, they proof it. They send back any errors that need to be corrected. Excuse me. And then we fix them, send them back, and then they insert the corrections and run it through their mastering chain, which is things like a high pass filter to get rid of external bass that my microphone doesn't cut out. Because if anyone's seen my videos, they know I yell at bass and revving engines all the time. It's very loud in this neighborhood. Mouth declickers, I should say, to get any, you never know how noisy the human mouth is until you have to listen to it on a microphone. And then it's real gross. And then you hear every single mouth click anywhere, ever. Like I hear them in TikTok videos all the time now. And I'm like, do ASMR at all. I'm like, oh no, get rid of that. But yeah, they just make it clean, and then they make it, me too, Ruthie. I am so clicky. It's gross. It's so gross. I need to do an output. There's an output filter where you can just listen to all the clicks that are removed in a file.
And you gotta post that.
And yeah. Oh my gosh. Who wants 3 minutes of mouth clicks? Because I can do that for you. And they clean it up. They make sure it meets like the specs for Audible and that kind of stuff, and then we upload it. So yeah, I ended up doing the engineering for the first book, all 35 hours of that first book. This one's only 24, so we knocked it down a little bit. But I much prefer outsourcing the engineering.
So Jen, I'm curious, and for all three of you, you mentioned earlier that you devised the Jennifer Saviano method with your dual narration. Tell us a little bit about that and how it might differ from how people traditionally do their narration.
Well, it's rapidly growing in popularity, and before I decided I wanted to do that, I had never heard it done before. So I'm kind of not entirely seriously claiming this actually claiming this because I don't know. I have not listened to every audiobook out there. But I wanted, no matter whose POV the story was being told in, for Dean to always be voiced by PJ and Vana to always be voiced by Paige. And I did it because I wanted emphasis on their connection to each other. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That was my artistic vision for that.
Yeah, so it's a little more like a stage play with characters doing their dialogue, as opposed to a chapter is done by this narrator and then the next chapter is done by the other narrator. That's kind of what you're describing.
Well, yeah, that's how it plays out.
It's a combination of the two. Like dual is generally you alternate POVs, and then whoever's POV chapter it is, they do all the voices.
Right.
And then duet is like the male or the masculine person would do all of the masc sounding voices, and the femme narrator would do all the femme sounding voices. So in this case, it's like that, but the voice of Vana was always me, even in Dean's POV, and the voice of Dean was always PJ, even if it's Vana's POV. But there are chapters where I will do Viking, where I will do Axel, where PJ does Lucinda and Cherry. So those voices do change, but Dean and Vana are always the same.
Oh, okay. So you each have one character. You're not doing all of the male and all of the female voices.
The way I like to think about it, it's a straight up dual POV where I have my chapters and she has her chapters. End of story. Except, little added caveat, I won't voice her voice. She just voices her voice in my side, and I'll voice my voice in her side. And I think what Jennifer was going for was making those characters to be to take a greater focus and a greater importance. And they just jump out at you, and you know that this story is about them over everyone else. All the other characters feel like they're not less important, but less important because these characters are true and voiced the whole way through. It's a really wonderful setup.
And I think it's always fine to say, these are the main characters and these are the secondary characters, because good storytelling requires one or two characters that are the leads, that are the protagonists. Even no matter how big your cast gets, the reader should know who the main character or two main characters are, because that is who they're supposed to associate with. That is, the lens through which they are seeing this entire story. Even if you have other POV characters, you always have one or two protagonists. And I've heard authors try to convince me otherwise, and I remain steadfast in that it's the author's job to make sure that the readers know who is the main character, or you can have a male and a female lead, making sure you know who those are. So Jennifer, what do you think prompted you to have this little artistic quirk whenever it came to having the narration for your book? You said you never heard it done before. What was going through your mind when you decided that this is how I kind of want to direct and have my project done?
I thought it would be different, and I more so than just defining who are the mains. It was also to show their connection to each other. Like Dean, like with Vana to Dean, she's so central to his just everything when he meets her. Like it has to be her voice. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm really bad at explaining things.
Well, what you're doing is you've in a very tangible way through the audio, you're highlighting the love story, or at least maybe not love story, that putting it simply, but the relationship between these two that is a part of the core of your story, because you write romantic suspense as opposed to what I write, which would be suspense, and there might be romantic plots and subplots. So I think that's a great way to make sure the readers know that the beating heart of this story is these two and how they are interacting with each other. So I absolutely get it, and you're right, it is very different. I don't think that I've ever heard an audiobook done that way. But you say it's growing in popularity. Did you have other people reach out and say, I heard a book that was done like yours? Or, how are you hearing about other books that are being done this way?
I'm just hearing clips on TikTok of it being done this way.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't, I don't think anybody's reached out to me or anything.
No, well, DJ
anything
stole the idea.
DJ Krimmer has stole the idea, so there you go. That's
We did that for Closing the Distance as well, because we narrated Closing the Distance for DJ, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I like that. We'll do that." And PJ's a huge proponent of it. PJ doesn't like full duet.
Yeah,
Because
I don't think full duet is ever necessary. I think a lot of people think that that the reason you do it is because guys don't do good girl voices and women don't do good men voices.
Depends on the quality.
And I think that's a cop out. I think that's a cop out. I don't think that's a reason to drive your artistic design of your book. However, what Jen has done is a wonderful reason to artistically design your format of your book. I think dual POV is smart in a romance, and I think this modified duet just makes it that much better. I think it's how all romances, for the most part, should be done. I think it's really a wonderful way to do romance or romance genre.
That said, we diverged from that a little bit in book 2.
Yes, we did.
Because DJ suddenly started voicing Legion, because Legion's going to have his own book.
Yeah.
So,
but there's a couple of reasons why I wanted to do that. One of which is I wanted to see how people took to hearing Legion more, because part of Legion's story is he does have a damaged throat. Like he's messed up. And I think he sounds great to me. I could listen to Legion I'm not going to go for 35 hours again, but 20. Can we listen to Legion for 20 hours with a damaged throat? My take, I think, for book 3 is going to be close to his speaking voice, but I think Legion's inner monologue needs to be
not his undamaged voice.
Yeah, like what he would have been had that not happened to him.
Exactly.
But when he speaks, it's going to be that raspy growl of, the damage that was done to him in his life. But I wanted to start introducing people to my listeners to Legion's voice, and kind of emphasis on how important he actually is to the story, even though you didn't see him a whole lot in book 1.
And honestly,
I laid a whole lot of Legion bombs in book 1 that blow up in book 2.
And
Legion's easier for PJ than he is for me. I have a very hard time with rasp.
And Tanya down there in the comments beat me to the punch, but describe what it's like voicing a character that has damage to their vocal cords, and what do you have to do to get that out of your own voice?
It depends on the style of rasp. When you're doing rasp, is basically just taking your vocal cords and then loosening it up and letting air pass through. As it passes through, like if you can imagine some rubber bands and you're blowing air through those rubber bands as you loosen them up a little bit, they start to flap against each other, and you can see them slamming against each other. That slamming process is the part that's getting the gravelly sound of the rasp. If you're doing it too hard, that can dry out the vocal cords, and the process of them slamming into each other really hard can damage them. So when you have a character that's using rasp and using a lot of air that's slamming through it, then that can be very tiring on the voice very quickly. And I can already feel the damage that was doing very quickly. I can feel a little bit of pain in there. But if you can lessen the amount of air that's going through, one way would be to lower it down here so that it's lower. And then if you can move the air through that and it's not so fast, then you can do it without damaging your voice. So the less air that you use, the more that you're able to modify the voice and do it for a longer period of time.
It's similar to how like Metal Screamo, like how they can do that for hours and hours and hours and not damage their vocal folds. So
is there any preparation that goes into a session before you have to voice Legion?
It's I just have to have a thoroughly warmed voice for anything that I do. If I'm doing either Dean voice or Legion or even a higher voice, they all require the same thing, and they require me to warm up all ranges of my voice. In fact, if I'm warmed up really high, it helps me do my low voice. So if right now, without warming up, I was going to do low voice, this would be where I would talk. If I wanted to put a little rasp in it, it's down here. But if I warm up my upper voice going, I can get even lower. Down
Okay.
usually when I'm in the booth, I'll often do those little siren sounds and keep my voice kind of stretched out. And that's a lot of a good example of that is when your vocal cords are, if you take that rubber band I was talking about, stretch it. The longer you're stretching it, the higher you're going, and that allows it to loosen up a little bit, so that when you let go, it can loosen up even more and have those lower tones. So every time you're doing that, you're stretching your little rubber band a little bit more to let it loosen up lower. And so my
Very
process
cool.
is always keeping a full range warmed up.
And Paige, do you do things any differently? Like, what's your process like?
For Legion specifically, or just in general?
Both.
In general, I have a 16-minute like just vocal warm up that I do because PJ and I were both music majors, voice majors in college. So I have a 16-minute warm up that I try and do before I get in the booth and do anything because you always want to be warm. It'll sound better. For Legion specifically, I have a very tough time because breath control was not my forte when I was in voice school, which explains so much. And because Legion is all about where's the breath going, I have a harder time doing him. So I didn't have to voice him in book 2, hooray. But in book 1, the scenes with Legion actually took me longer than some of Vanna's full chapters because I had to go back and redo it to make sure the rasp is consistent as far as damaged vocal cords would be consistent. And that's another thing too. Like you don't want it to be too regular because it's damaged.
That's true.
It's not a vocal quality. It's damaged, so the folds are shifting, so it's not going to be consistent. But you also want to not sound like you don't know what you're doing, which a lot of times when I was doing Legion, it was all over the place. And the other issue, when I voice Legion, it's easier for me to get raspy and gravelly when I'm lower. But Vanna is, she's down here. She talks down here. She's a little bit lower than Paige's normal voice. So some of the male characters are actually higher than Vanna. And when I voiced Legion, he ended up being higher, and it's really difficult. That's not the right word, but there's an expectation when you're listening to an audiobook for some reason that the male voices are lower than the female voices.
Mm-hmm.
So to kind of get that vibe of him being lower and aggressive and sexy when your voice is actually lower it took so much concentration. So that was very much like it was an artistic challenge. I don't know if I met it, but I tried and I didn't have to worry about it in book 2.
Well, I'd say you got the work for book 2 and people were obviously clamoring. They were asking Jen for a book 2, so whatever y'all did seemed to work out. I did want to ask Jennifer, back up a little bit and talk to us about that, that relationship that is so central to your story and what makes it, so great and epic and how it can drive forward a story and make people want to have a book 2, because you said that you were responding to readers who wanted a book 2 rather than pre-planning a series like a lot of authors do.
Dean, they fell in love with Dean. Dean is the perfect damaged man. I have a whole lot of threads throughout the book where I could take it further if I wanted to. I will say I wrapped up most of them by the end of book 1, but I left like a little bit of a cliffhanger. I can't spoil anything. I know there's readers in here that are like have like a couple of hours left, so I don't want to say too much. But it's their connection. It's their, well, first it starts off mostly Dean-sided. His just willingness to do anything she needs. His devotion to her. They're very complicated. They're very complicated. They come from 2 different worlds. He's a biker. She's on the run from an abusive ex. She has her own spiritual beliefs that he really just, it was never crossed his mind before. So she's so like unique to him and interesting to him. Yeah, I would just say maybe the sheer uniqueness of these characters within this genre got people interested, because I've never seen it before, and I've read I've read a lot in this genre, and yeah, I try to do something different.
That's true. Romantic suspense in itself is a unique genre that has kind of grown with independent publishing a little bit. It's probably there are elements of the old Harlequin romances and stuff in there. But yeah, I definitely, because whenever we first started the live tonight, just looking at your aesthetic and looking, it was a motorcycle club, so I assumed it was within that spicy romance, but it's romantic suspense with some spicy elements. So yeah,
there's definitely spice. I would say it's heavy on the angst. Like it's definitely a slow burn. But you get there's steaminess trickled in there until you get to the about 70% in.
Well, you don't want to jump the shark.
You don't want to what?
Jump the shark.
Oh yeah. But I mean, it's unique. Not just. I mean, I wouldn't say to romantic suspense. I would say more so the more specific genre of MC romance, where. And I'm not knocking this at all. I read a lot of it. This MC was part of what made me want to write this book because it's fun. MC romance is a fun genre to read. But you don't typically get an MC. Actually, you don't. I've never found it. 330,000 word MC romance. It's just unheard of in the genre. The character development that I put into this, you just don't. And then I'm not saying at all that there is no character development, but to the depth I went insanely with Savior, I've never seen before.
Yeah,
and that's a my readers. Book. I'm sorry, what?
I said, yeah, no, that's a long book. I didn't realize that Savior. I heard it was a long book. I did not realize it was just
it's long. It's 35 hours audio. It's 35 hours.
And that's because we were narrating at. I worked it out. We were narrating at 10,000 something words per hour, and that's because it was new. It was my third book. It was PJ's first book. So honestly, because ACX said it was going to be 40.1. And we came in at 35. That's how much faster we talked. Where we came in, I think 20 minutes under on book 2. So we were much more on hey, we've done this before. kind of.
And see, when you said 35 hours, I thought you were talking about the two books together.
Oh, hell no.
And even then, those would have been two.
Look at this mother. Let me show you.
So that's
look at this.
That is impressive. That is impressive.
This is a bargain. This is a bargain buy. Go ahead and get this audiobook. You got hours and hours and hours to listen to. It's a bargain.
And everything in the book has a reason for it being in there. There's no filler in Savior.
Yeah.
And we talk so fast that you don't need to up the audiobook speed. So it's actually 35 hours.
I've never done that. I've never listened to an audiobook, and I've only listened to fiction. I've never listened to it at anything other than normal speed. Now, if it were nonfiction, I could see myself, if I were just trying to absorb information about a topic, I could see myself listening to it. And I definitely, if I'm watching documentaries and stuff that I already know, I definitely can fast forward through that stuff. But fiction, and Tanya has a question that we haven't quite got around to yet. But we talked about the art earlier. Do you obviously Paige has a sweatshirt with that same design, and we saw the mug. Can our viewers buy those from your website? And if so, how do they get there?
Well, I don't have a website. I have a link tree where I have everywhere you can get things. Everything's scattered everywhere because I'm so not technology inclined at all. I'm trying to find somebody to build me a website because I can't do it. But they're all there. Bonfire has all of the clothing. And in my Etsy shop is where you can buy autographed books. And I think I have 2 keepsake boxes left. But yeah, their links are in my link tree to get everything.
And you can get to your link tree from your TikTok
profile. Yeah, right in TikTok. Yeah, just go to my profile and click it. It's on my Instagram also.
Nice. Because, not all authors sell their swag. It's always interesting when authors talk about that because, some people do it just for promotion and they give it away, and then some people no, if I'm putting this into it, I might as well go ahead and sell it. I wasn't
going to do any swag. I did not expect this book to do as well as it's doing. I've had the readers come to me like, you got to make shirts, you got to do. I've had them tell me that they want to get the Saviors MC logo tattooed on their bodies.
Wow.
Yeah.
How
Which is just like,
how does that licensing work? Have you even looked into that? That would be interesting.
I mean, I guess they could do whatever they want. It's their bodies. I mean, are you really gonna, as the artist, sue somebody for doing that?
I don't know how any of that works, but that's the first time I've ever heard that they want to get that art tattooed on them. Although I will say that of all the author art I've seen, that one would be pretty cool. I could definitely see someone putting that, across their whole back or something like that.
I was gonna say, I know like the Kushiel's Dart trilogy, which came out years ago. I don't know if Ruthie's still in here, but there's a tattoo on the back, and it's like a rose, but it's the whole back, and Ruthie has it on her back. So I don't imagine that the cover artist cared too much, because the amount of tattoos that art inspired was insane. So, but you know what? To each their own. Just as long as they know who the artist is. Just when they get the tattoo, link them the artist, and they'll be fine. Credit where credit is due.
So, you are, I guess all three of you are kind of in an enviable position in that, your book found an audience, and the audio book found, the same and even an expanded audience, that people are asking for more stories, and they're, they want these things. They want, to be able to buy the sweatshirts and all that stuff. Most authors, it's the other way, and they are trying, their ass off to get people to know that they have written a book at all, let alone like it, let alone want to buy it and buy more. What have you done with the reaction, and what has that told you about how to go about marketing the books, both the print and the audiobook?
Oh, I don't know I don't market. I make videos on TikTok, and that's it. That's my marketing. I suck at this.
So you don't do like Facebook, Amazon ads, none of that?
No, I'm banned on Facebook from ever advertising for the rest of my life.
Okay, that's a story that I have to ask the follow-up question. How did you get banned from advertising on Facebook?
That's marketing in and of itself. You're like banned from Facebook.
I know, right? Yeah.
Life. I am so banned. I am so banned on Facebook. I've gotten other devices to create accounts to be able to advertise, and they still know it's me, and they ban me on those too. I am just, I am in the dungeon of Facebook jail.
For those of us who don't know, you have to tell us how you got banned from Facebook.
Well, Jennifer, wait, before you do it, I want you to realize that Trump has been allowed back on Facebook as of today.
Not me.
And
not
you are
me.
still not. I just want you to realize that's where we live right now.
I mean, I have a page. I have, the Saviors MC series on Facebook. I just can't advertise. I'm not allowed to advertise. It's a really stupid thing. When I first published, one of my friends was just like, well, why don't you try putting it out there? Don't just keep it for yourself. Try to make it known that this book exists, because it's that good. This is their words, not mine. And just take your shot. So I did. So I went on, what is it, Fiverr? Is that the website? Fiverr. And I found somebody who does like voiceovers and stuff, because I didn't know any narrators. This is before TikTok. And I made a little book trailer, and in one part of the book trailer it says Steamy Schmecks. We know what that means, right? Steamy Schmecks, like, it's like action, vigilante justice, like all like the tags that are in the book or whatever, and then Steamy Schmecks, and like this like totally joke voice like you hear for like actual like movie trailers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Banned for life. That's all it took.
Wow.
That's all it took. So it's not even a fun story. It just pisses me off.
Now, how long ago was this? I can't believe the ban would still be in effect.
2021.
Like, I mean, when
June of 2021.
Wow.
Still banned.
That's crazy. So I did want to, Tanya, my excellent executive producer, put the link down in the comments where you can get to Jen's link tree and buy the swag and all that stuff. And there's PJ.
Yeah, I'm wearing it too.
Or Paige. Paige and PJ are showing off. Yeah, all three. I'm left out. I need to.
Hey, if you read the book and you like it, I'll send you something.
There you go. All right.
PJ has one too. I looked for it, but I think it's in the washing machine. But his sweatshirt is black.
Well, you have the blanket too. I see it behind you.
I do. Yep.
That the cat stole.
Oh yeah,
Very nice.
that is Odin's blanket wherever he is.
You know,
Odin
it's like people like I will say that Tanya and I have had Facebook give us warnings about stuff, and she's been put into TikTok jail for like a couple of days or something like that. But I can't believe going on years just because you did something that was halfway a joke on Facebook. You just can't advertise. I
can't appeal it. Can't email nobody. Just done.
If it's Facebook, there's no there. I mean,
no.
I don't think you can reach those people on Facebook.
Yeah, right.
Not unless you have like Mark's cell phone number or something like that.
Yeah.
And they're not people too. It's an algorithm, and they don't even chat.
Right.
Kind of like other apps we know about.
Yes.
No mention of social media names.
But I'll tell you what, that would be a fun way to market it. Like read the book that got me.
I'm not allowed to
advertising, and then you can go. Trump can advertise on Facebook ads, but I can't because of this.
That's how risky
you'll definitely get the spicy folks to read your book then.
Right. You might not like it.
I also don't want to falsely advertise or trick anybody to reading my book thinking it's something it's not. Like if you read my Amazon description of what my book is about, you'll know if you want to read this book or not. If you just take the time to read it.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm very honest.
Tanya's got it so hot that I can't even advertise it. This book is so hot I can't even advertise it on Facebook. That's the way to do it.
There you go. Capitalize on that.
What you do is you use that to get people, and then link to your Amazon, and then they can read the actual description. And it's too hot for Facebook, and definitely too hot for.
Well, if anybody's interested, I'll post the video here on TikTok of the ad that got banned.
Yes,
so
there you go. That I am interested.
I'll post that tonight.
So interestingly.
Ridiculous.
One of the things you were asking about earlier was origin stories, and one of the coolest part of the origin story of Paige via Jennifer is that the whole reason that Paige is on TikTok and
you're welcome,
Jennifer. So neither Paige nor I were interested in social media. We're like, no, we're not doing this. We're just going to be narrators. Jennifer hounded Paige. She's like, no, you were getting on TikTok. And I have to say
every other message. And I was like, stop it. I'm old. Leave me alone.
I'm old. Yeah, we're old. We're old. We don't do this. But I have to tell you that we've probably gotten, I think we can owe 80% of our success to being on TikTok and meeting this wonderful community. And that's all because of Jennifer. So I have to thank you greatly for.
She twisted my arm.
And Savior is actually PJ's first audiobook.
It was.
Yeah.
It was the second one that I was contracted for. The third one that was produced, but the second one I was contracted for because somebody made it take 6 months.
I don't know who you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a lot slower than.
Hey, I'm a dream. I was very patient.
Oh no, it wasn't you. You were not the someone that made it take 6 months.
She was patient.
No, it was not you.
Your book's long, but it's not that long.
It's not that long.
Okay, so they learned lessons. They learned lessons from the first.
Afterlife.
Book.
Yeah, I got Afterlife and recorded it and engineered it in the time that we had the Save Your Book contract.
So they learned lessons from the first book and put me on a strict schedule of no, PJ, you will be finishing it by this date. And they were constantly. Both of them were both okay. Are you on this chapter yet? Are you okay? All right. Are you on the next chapter? Are you in the booth?
We're this round too, Mister. It's because now we have to wait for a third booth. Poor Legion. Poor Legion, PJ. I'm just kidding. It's not even written yet.
Legion's not happening until there is a second booth. I can't with you. I love you, but I can't.
Third book, second booth.
# couple goals. although from everything I've heard, you two really are the embodiment of # couple goals, and that's that's great that you all can have this same artistic life and share it with each other. I know that whenever that finally happens for me, that's what I'm looking for, is somebody who I can share my artistic life, but because that's most of what I do, whether it's, my day job of editing or whether it's, whatever other creative writing and screenplay writing that I do. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, we're coming up on an hour, and we try to go for 2. So for the people who are just joining us, I'll go ahead and kind of recap what we've got going on here. This is Book Talk on Book Talk, where we talk about books and narrators and art in general. We're all creative folks. If you like this live, it will get more visibility through TikTok. You are more than welcome to give us all gifts, because we are small creators, and every little bit of that counts. I also want to say that that was nice seeing him go exit and then come back in and pour the wine. See, like I said, so we have Jennifer Saviano. She's the author of the Save Your Book series. Books 1 and 2 are out, and then we have her narrators, Paige and PJ. Who are each other's significant other, and they're in the same house but on different cameras, which is good, because they both get their equal due, which is how it should be. And we've been talking about their combined project and what they've got coming up. Jennifer, I did want to ask you, is it just book 1 and book 2 that are out? Because you just said that you're working on the 3rd book, which is going to be I guess very Legion specific. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, it's going to be his origin story, and then what happens, because there's a promise made at the end of book 2, and it's going to show what happens there too. But yeah, definitely his origin story. So many of the readers, I hate calling them fans, readers,
they're both,
wanted to know what made him the way he is. So I think they enjoy the they have to. The thoroughness that I go into with character development. So I'm going to take him way back, because he needs a lot of explaining to do. Legion, he's a piece of work. Just put it nicely.
Well, people seem to respond to your first book, which, 300,000 plus words. So, I think you probably, your fans, and they are definitely, we can go ahead and call them fans, they want that really in-depth origin story. So, that's one way you can give it to them. And that's a great example, both you calling them fans and also, that your book, if, like, say, as the editorial director of Blue Handle Publishing, if you pitched that book and told me it's 330,000 words, I would probably say, oh, so what you have is a trilogy, and we'll figure out a way to chop it up. And that is what we would do, because that's the more palatable way for us as a publishing house to market it to a very mainstream audience. And that is how we have to think about it in business terms. But as an independent creator, you get to do what is, more right for the story. And you found a great fan base who, like I said, you are, in my view, as an author, very lucky that you have people who are, begging you to write more and to create more content. Whereas most authors have it the other way. They're trying to let people know that they even have a book that they've written. So you obviously did some stuff very right.
Man, I just winging it.
Yeah. I know I do need to mention, I always forget to mention that any gifts that you guys do give, whatever my piece ends up being, is going toward getting me a background that does not look like I am working at an Asian-themed restaurant, but rather some sort of canvas that we can put in the background with some books and stuff. So that's where some of your gifts are going. Now, the gifts you give to the individual creators over there, that just goes straight to them, and that's like giving them a tip, and it's wonderful. A small tangent. I'm not sure if y'all got this message too. But first, people should know that on our individual videos, most of us, if we've turned them on, in addition to commenting, you can give us gifts on our static videos, not just on the lives. But the reason I bring that up is because TikTok informed me today that in my opinion, in order to keep up with Instagram, and because they have a much better creator fund and revenue sharing, as does YouTube. TikTok now, on any video gifts that are given to static videos, they are giving the creators 50% after whatever fees that they have to take into account for the processing. So that's fun. So for all 4 of us, if you give us gifts on those static videos, the creators, us, are now getting more of that revenue share. So good on TikTok. But they definitely, that was the one thing about TikTok that the creators were unhappy about, was that the revenue share was not even close to on par with Instagram and with YouTube. So that's very generous of them. Now here on the live, it's always been, we get, everything but, a commission that TikTok sort of takes. But I mean, most of what you're given is going straight into the pocketbook. So we thank you, and I try to thank everybody who gives on the show afterward. And so we appreciate those donuts, Blanca. Those are very nice.
Blanca. Blanca just clicked "I'm done" on a book today, the 12 path. So very exciting. Very exciting. We're looking forward to that.
Finishing a project of any kind, or even just finishing a draft, is always so amazing. I was talking with my friend Taylor today. We were talking about Hollywood stuff, because he's an author, but he's getting into that, and we're going to start maybe doing some stuff together. And we're talking about writing prose versus writing for the screen. And I'm not going to say one is easier than the other, because I know that there are people who dedicated themselves to just screenwriting, and they do it way better than I do. So I'm not going to say one's easier, but you get to finish things a lot more quickly if you are writing scripts. And so that definitely leads to a better reinforcement cycle than writing a novel. And especially if you write them at Jennifer's length, I cannot imagine. That's a good question I didn't ask you, was, okay, so you have this book that is an outlier in terms of length. How long did it take you to even just get the first draft of something that long done? Because physically writing 300,000 words, just getting the words down, even if you were writing, I will not, throw erasers at the board, 300,000 times. I mean, that's a lot of words. How long did that take you?
Probably about 3 years of just thinking, plotting, writing, researching. Yeah, about 3 years.
So if you
I will never be an author who could put out more than one book a year. It took me, book 2 would have been out quicker, but my husband was in a really horrific car accident, and we lived in the hospital for about 3 months. He was in critical, he was in a coma, it was horrible. So that kind of derailed. I'm sorry, what?
I was saying the audiobook almost didn't happen because of that.
Oh yeah, because we had just started talking about going into contract when the truck hit him.
Yeah.
So that stalled things a little bit there. But yeah, I think I would have had book 2 out a little bit faster had that whole situation not happened.
Yeah, you needed.
But I think I'm going to be like a 1 book a year type author, because I just love to delve in and just develop them.
Epic MC romance. You've created a whole subgenre.
I think I might have.
Quite possibly. Well, and it's interesting, usually when we are talking on the show, we're talking to people who write a lot of books in a year. They have a rapid release type of schedule, because that is a business model that has emerged among a lot of independent authors, and especially ones who write the different subgenres of romance. However, I come from God help me, the traditional side of publishing, where 1 book a year is what most authors can do, and anyone who does more than that, they are really kicking ass. There are authors who have 2 different series going, and they put out a book a year in each, and most of us are like, holy cow, that's incredible. And most of the time, if you're under contract, that's where you get your deadlines and stuff from, and even those deadlines are not super intense, and it's you can bust them, and normally it's fine. But it is interesting for us on here to hear from an independent author who's like, I think I'm just a 1 book a year person, and for that to be like, feel like you're writing so slow, which to me and to most of the authors who write for traditional publishers are like, well, yeah, why would you ever write more than 1 book a year? So it's interesting. It's interesting to hear that. And then for PJ and Paige, who are doing your series, a lot of narrators who do a series, they do have to do more books in a year and a quicker turnaround. So it's interesting to hear them, that they are waiting on the author rather than the author already having 2 books ready, and they're still trying to produce those audiobooks as quick as they can. I'll bet that's nice for you too.
It definitely helps the monetary income thing because despite what we narrators charge, we are not all rolling in the money. I'm
No.
staring at my bank account like, oh God, the mortgage is due next week. Like, yeah. So, yeah, it's nice to be booked. It's nice to always have work. And if I did not actually have to pay bills, I would love it even
Mhm.
Yeah.
more. So, but I mean, it's we love telling stories. And I've said this in videos before. If I didn't have to charge you for my time, I wouldn't. But I
Yeah.
do. The same way authors do. We don't live in a barter system society. If we did, fantastic, but we don't. Sadly, I cannot pay my mortgage in TikTok likes. So if
Yeah.
I could, I wouldn't charge you anything. But like, I don't know how to say this. It's anyway, it's always an honor. It's always an
Mhm.
honor and a privilege to be chosen for people. It's an honor and a privilege to bring stories to life, and I cannot emphasize that enough. And I'm gonna cry if I say
Oh.
anything more about that. Um, but it's always an honor, and but unfortunately, it's an honor I do have to charge for in order to live. So it's
Yeah.
nice to have that honor and to be constantly booking out and to see that on my calendar and to have build relationships and friendships with people. Like Jen has come up and played Snake for 4 hours with my
For
cat.
hours.
Like,
I've got
and it's
stamina,
it's
baby.
amazing. I wouldn't trade that for the world. I truly would not. The money is necessary, but it's not what makes me happy about it. If
I
that
was
makes sense.
talking to someone today about this exact thing, saying that, yeah, I would be doing this for free. I would do this without getting paid. I'm not doing this because I get paid. And all we ever want is just to be able to make ends meet. We're definitely not looking to get money. All we're trying to do is pay bills so that we can get back in the booth
Mhm.
and develop these stories and tell these stories again.
As I
So,
imagine many authors are like, I just want you all to buy my book so I can keep writing.
yeah.
Oh,
And
Yeah,
that's
for
basically.
sure.
so, I mean, because it's love, it's art, and with piracy, with AI, it's like you are literally taking the humanity out of art, and that's so depressing. Like like AI is not creating art, they are literally taking inputs from humans.
Mm-hmm.
Piracy is depriving people of the ability to make more art. It's just, yeah, it's
Yes,
I
it's
want to.
literally soul crushing. I
yes.
mean, when I found out
I'm
what
just
I
gonna
found
drink
out,
more
I was
wine.
like, I couldn't write for probably a month. I was so sick
Hmm.
by it. It was just, it's really,
Yeah.
it's horrible.
So I want to take the opportunity to point out to those of you out there who may not already know this, but Paige is also an excellent mentor for voice actors and for
Oh,
narrators. So, it's if you couldn't already tell, she's so passionate and loves this so much. So, if you are needing something like that, reach out to her. I know that she's always willing to help people, as are almost all creators, especially those of us who put ourselves out there, like we all do on TikTok. Um, I want to say that I want to back up a little bit. Something that Jennifer, you were talking about, readers versus fans, and we live, in a world today where we're all creating content. Whether it is a book, whether it is an ebook, whether it is a screenplay or a stage play that's going to be turned into performance art. Even if it's a play written just for Audible. Like a lot of authors I know are also just writing stuff just to be performed by voice actors. So all of that's happening. And so, yes, we are also living in an age where we all have our personal social media and our personal brand, and we all have our fans of us and of what we create, whether we are creating audiobooks, whether we are creating books, no matter what it is we're doing, whether it's this live show, people who keep on tuning in, and we love you all and keep returning, and thank you. We've got guests booked all the way out into the summer. So, you know, this
Cool.
is, yeah, like, you know, but we are, you know, we do all have fans, and that's what we're all trying to get, because that's the world we live in today, and it's very different. It can be, it can feel very strange, and I think a lot of us do feel like we almost have to sort of figure out exactly, you know, where we fit in to this creative world that we're in. But I also love how freeing everything is. You know, like, you know, you can write a 300,000 word book. You can, you know, change up you know, the architecture of an audiobook and have, you know, do the things that you all have done. You know, we can have, you know, live multi-guest shows, you know, every Wednesday on TikTok if we want to. We can do whatever we want, and that is better than the old way of doing things where there was so much gatekeeping. And you know, that's one thing that, you know, being independent content creators, you know, has over the way things, you know, had been done in the past. And yes, it does make it a little bit. And as always, if you want to be on the show later this year, contact Tanya Celtic Blue to you, personal assistant services. Most of you already know her, but if you don't, follow her, get in contact with her. She does all the booking. But yes, it makes it different to try to earn a living and to try to pay your bills, and figuring out what things that you can do, what content you can create that is going to generate revenue, and what generates more. And there's a lot more experimentation going on. You know, like for me, I figured out that I actually am more in demand and probably make more of an income from editing books and doing that side of it, as opposed to writing them. Even though, you know, my books do win awards and people, and I do have my own fans there. So it's like, what is going to end up actually allowing me to keep creating art? What can I do that's going to feed my soul and feed my belly? And you know, and that's not a new thing for artists, but we're having to do it in very, very different ways. And what I lament, what I don't love, is how, you know, it seems like, you know, everything I go to, first it was journalism and then it was writing books. Like, the written word is just getting more devalued, and it's not anything we're doing. It's just that there are less people out there who seem to want to read stuff. And I don't know if you all have experienced that, if you agree or disagree. It's just, you know, when you peek behind the curtain and look at the profit margins and look at the numbers, it's you know, it's different than whenever you're just out there writing in the world. You know, what do y'all think? And of course, you know, then you add in all the artificial intelligence, and that's kind of where I was going, was that, you know, it's getting to where now people, they were already starting to devalue the written word, and now computers are offering to do it for us, and it just and they're offering to read it too. So so yeah, like, I definitely am not happy about the emergence of artificial intelligence.
I don't think, I actually thought people had stopped reading until I joined TikTok. And then I was like, oh, wow, like, actually, BookTok is huge. And it actually re-inspired my love of reading. Like, my origin story was I was voted best reader in kindergarten. Thank you, Dad. Like, I read all of Laura Ingalls when I was 4. Didn't know what I was reading, but read it, which is not the same thing. And I think that's also a huge difference. Like, can I intake something or can I understand something? But
Right.
but with even TikTok is training people for the sound of AI. Anytime you use any of those audio, like, filters, anytime you use not a human voice to be like, this is my video,
I
oh
hate
my
those videos.
God, like that,
They're
you are
so annoying.
training.
So annoying.
I scroll immediately, but anytime you use that, you are training your ear and therefore the human brain to accept this as the way things are supposed to sound, which is devastating. One, for people like me who make our living off of this, but also just in general, the uncanny valley that's like, this is uncomfortable, is being slowly whittled away by corporations that just want your money.
And I will say, I was not trying to be super negative earlier. I apologize for that.
No, no.
And the what I was also trying to get to, in addition to talking about AI, was that that is one of the reasons why I like doing this show, and one of the things that, as you pointed out, TikTok does is this platform, TikTok, and hopefully the show that we're doing is it does allow us to put a spotlight on the creators who are doing great work, and so that we can get more exposure, and so we can all celebrate the art that we create, so we can maybe earn a little more money and all that stuff. So I was trying to get to the rousing call to small creators, and I think I lost my train of thought, which I want to do. Like, I definitely that definitely happens whenever I get on a roll. But that's interesting. You were talking about how we're training our ears for the AI, and of course that probably started with Siri back, in the iPhone, 10, 15 years ago. What do you think, PJ, about AI voice, and then we'll get to what Jennifer feels like on the writing side here in a minute.
Um, AI voice right now, we're going through some growing pains. I don't think that we can. I don't think that we can turn back. I think AI voice and AI writing and AI is, and every genre is going to be here. How we move forward is going to be the interesting part. I think there's a lot of artists out there, established artists, voice wise, that are able to capitalize on it and just hand their voice over to someone because they already have a following. And then the AI can just copy them, and they can just rake in the money, and the corporations can rake in the money. But we lose some of that inspiration that Paige is talking about of these new artists like Paige, like I, who get to interpret this for the first time. And I think that'd be really sad if we keep following that. The truth behind it is that it could be used as a tool. It could be used as a tool to help with editing. Could be used as a tool to help um, as an exploration tool for the artist. I could have an AI that I trained with my voice and have it read things in different ways so that I get it in my ear and going, okay, now that's the way I want to do it. These are tools that could be used, and I think I'm trying to hint at that for possibly for writing too. Is I don't think that I don't think the end goal at this point should be that the AI is the producer of the art, but that it becomes another tool that we as artists can use. I don't know what that ends up being for either writing or for voice work, but I think that's the direction that we need to go so that we can keep the art alive and keep things going from going in the direction that Paige was talking about, that uncanny valley, and keeping things very dry, because there's something to the way that when we look at a love scene and we feel what that character is feeling, and then we're able to say it out loud. That is something that's special, that is between the narrator and the listener, that they will not get otherwise. And I don't want to see that art go away.
Couldn't agree more. Jennifer, you said that you had a strong reaction, to some of this artificial intelligence stuff. What are your feelings on, the programs that claim to be able to do the writing for you?
No, I'm not messing with that stuff. I don't know any of it, and I don't know anything about it. I don't want to know anything about it. It's not for me. I'm a control freak. I'm gonna write what I want to write, how I want to write it. I think it's AI. I mean, sure it has its place, but it's not something I would ever use for anything I create. Human voices only, as far as I'm concerned. No, F it. I'm trying to censor myself. I'm from New York. I usually curse a lot more.
I worked in the newsroom for 10
AI,
years.
that is my position. Screw it.
Yeah.
I would agree with.
All I was going to say is you talked about AI being a tool, and some of the people down in the comments are getting pretty funny about why can't AI stick to doing menial stuff and let us produce the art. A lot of people have artificial voices read back what they've written because whenever we hear it, we can catch our missing words, and it'll, if you have a typo, it's going to read, something else to you. And the only thing it won't do is homonyms, obviously, if words sound the same, you're not going to help you catch that. But that's the way to use AI as a tool. And I actually don't use that because I hear the words in my head anyway as I'm writing and reading. And a lot of writers don't hear that in it, so they need to hear from an external speaker speaking at them. But yeah, that is the way AI can be a tool, not to produce actual content.
I don't know. I don't absorb it when I hear like I can't learn anything like that through it, like just that monotone, just straight late. It's in one ear, out the other. It doesn't work for me at all.
I honestly don't use Siri or any of that stuff, and like I know people who they're always telling their phone to Google and look stuff up, and like I would rather sit there and open up a web browser and type something into Google and read something than use that voice. I'm also that. Let's see.
So I have to say that I've gone into Chat GPT. I know we all have at some point. And
I don't even know what that is.
Okay, so ChatGPT is an AI that got released to the public. It's probably the most advanced free AI.
That guy who wrote the book used ChatGPT.
So what I did was I tried to see how it could be useful. What I found was that I could tell it things in plain language because I don't write well, and I could tell it something in plain language like, "Oh my gosh, this great director just contacted me and he wants me to do the show. But I really respect him, but I have to say no because I'm out for this one date and I don't know how to respond to it. Can you tell me how to respond?" And it wrote me up a really good, very professional way to respond to that person and tell them all the things that I was feeling in a professional way, which PJ would have had a hard time. He would have just been typing forever. And so that it does well.
That is a blatant lie. You would not have been typing forever. You would have handed me your phone and said,
"Right this morning." So, but I didn't have to do this. Now, fast forward is like, okay, so what else can it do? And I tried to be creative, and I was like, okay, write me a story about this. And so it wrote it, and it was horrible. So I'm like, okay, now let me try to see if I can make it better. And I tried to make it better, and I tried to use it as a tool. It cannot be inspired. It cannot come. It does a very good job of taking what you put into it and modifying it in the ways that it needs to. But as for inspiration, there's no way it's going to compete with the true brain of the writer. What it can do, though, is it can help you write. It can be your personal secretary. So the menial labor, like you said, if it sticks to laundry and dishes, I think we'll be fine. But and we can use it as a tool. But
it's impressive that something like that exists.
Yeah,
but it needs to stay the hell away from like books and stuff. Like,
so let me. I can get behind Scrivener, especially for people. So like, again, DJ has been on here before. She's dyslexic. Having something like Scrivener read it back to her is a useful tool, or like speech or text to speech, whatever. I get that for accessibility, and I'm not arguing against that. But I will say that if you already have text to speech, you don't need to then hire, and I use that term loosely, Apple AI narrators to narrate your book. It's already text to speech. And honestly, if the issue is accessibility, people can buy your ebook and text to speech it already. They don't need to pay you extra for a fake voice. So I would argue, like, fine, if you want to use text to speech, hell, if you want to pay Apple to use their narrator and not charge for this audiobook, then I'm fine with that too. I will say, consider that someone listening might be like, what the fuck am I listening to?
Yeah.
Especially if they pay for it. Like, what did I pay for?
Yeah, because I don't want to pay to listen to Siri or Cortana.
Yeah, I'm not going to pay to listen. And I mean, and Apple has some very popular narrators, and I'm not going to name names because I don't know if those voices have been legally acquired or not, but let's just say she was one of my favorites, and I'm not buying her books until she makes a statement. I'm not, like, I don't care if her narration sounds good. If it's not her, I don't care.
Well, I mean, I was listening to the Apple AI narrators. And
narrators are fine. Dialogue is
no. I mean, the AI. Yeah, what I heard was that it has a good approximation of a really strong approximation of what the words mean, but it has no depth of understanding that that the history of a person can have. It's
Yeah.
just not there yet. It does a generic read, and you as a listener will go through, and it'll sound okay. It'll sound like very conversational, but it's gonna miss little nuances that you're
Hmm.
gonna know that are gonna feel weird. And I think the experience is not gonna be pleasant in the long run. And I feel the only way to do it would be for someone to go back behind it and listen to it and go, no, we need change the AI in this section so that it understands that this person's really despondent, and this part they're really happy. They're not doing that right now, and I think in what's going to happen is that because they're not, people are going to be a little more dissatisfied with it than they would if they got it from a real narrator.
In essence, when you're buying the AI narration, you're paying the engineer to go behind and say, breath here, gasp here, surprise here. I'm like, you know what? I can just do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can just do that. And yeah, it's cheaper because the voice is there. But at the same time, then you're going to run into the problem where now every single book, because they're marketing it to romance specifically at the moment.
Oh, see, I didn't actually know that.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
have a female and a male for romance, and they have a female and a male for nonfiction. And those are the two that Apple are pushing. So congratulations. You have now hired Apple Books to narrate your book exactly the same way as it's narrating 15,000 other authors' books.
And what I'm saying was, it is cheaper because it's generic. If they go through with an editor afterwards and do all the tweaks that it needs to get to the level of art that, say, Paige will do, then they would have spent the extra money. It's no longer cheaper.
Yeah.
So you might as well just get the author, because it does take that work. It takes that amount of attention to detail to get it done. That, at least where we are currently, AI is not going to be able to do.
Yeah, what I think is hopefully going to happen is it's going to be a lot like what happened whenever they started. Microsoft Word got its better editor in there, and then you had stuff like Grammarly and stuff that was gonna be an instant computer editor, and you don't have to pay editors for your book anymore. Well, I'm here to tell you that I've never met somebody who would rather rely on Grammarly than to hire me or somebody like me to really go through and really polish and make their story shine and come to life on the page like you do, making it come to life in the speakers. And and the one thing that AI can never do, they can never do what Jennifer can do, and that is to create an entire person and put them on a page. What she and I do in that regard, AI is never, the writing aspect of it is never going to be able to tell a story and to imagine people in the way that we can. And if AI ever gets there, then we're looking at a Terminator situation, and then we have much bigger problems to worry about. But to talk about, Jennifer, you obviously, your niche is really detailed backstory and origin story, and really fleshing people out. Whenever you sat down to create your characters, did that just happen organically as you were writing? Did you do character Bibles? Like how did you end up with such an impressively detailed character that you were able to then use to write your story?
Maybe this sounds like crazy. I don't know. I don't talk to a whole lot of people. I'm just gonna say it. I kind of talk to them in my head.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to say like, maybe I'll say channeling, like channel this being that's suddenly speaking in my brain, and get to know each other, and then we form a story together. But I'm also crazy.
No, well, that's not all authors have that experience, but I think a lot do. And yeah, whenever we can all talk about that, and that sounds perfectly normal. I have had characters. One of my favorite stories to tell, and the story of mine that's received the best critical attention from other authors who I admire. It's basically my most artistic work, I suppose you could say. But there's a moment, whenever I was writing and I had two timelines, and there were two different characters on two different timelines, and I was in one timeline and I was writing, and I swear I can still see a character turned and looked at me and said, "Hey, have you figured out who I am yet?" And then all of a sudden I realized that character in the past timeline as a kid was this adult in this other timeline that I had totally written. And I realized that in that moment that they were the same person.
Yeah, and they will talk to you, and there will come a point where you cannot make them do any, like, you can't force them to do things. Like, they're beings now. There's so much stuff that I was like, we're not doing this, we're doing it this way. And Dean was just like, you know what? I'm not talking to you until you do this my way. And I was like, all right, fine, you win.
And that's the thing is, whenever you write great characters and they're that in depth, they become people to the author, and they do dictate what happens. You know, it is a little bit of a joke, you know, that Kitty, we're about to get, you know, another 10,000. Oh, we have more than 10,000 likes, 10.4. I'm pretty sure that's a record for us. So thank you, everybody who's been liking this live. That is incredible. But with that cat, I think we're about to get another 10,000 here in the next few minutes, because that was super cute.
I'm all about the cheap thrills.
But no, that's, you know, authors can talk about that. And we have those moments where the characters do dictate things and they do tell us what's happening. As soon as I had that moment, my entire third act was different than the way I thought I planned it out, you know? And so, but you know, it went through, and you know, I absolutely love how everything turned out. But yes, so yeah, that is totally not weird to talk about on here. But whenever we talk to non-writers and people like that, you know, when we talk to civilians, it makes us sound like, you know, we're schizophrenic, like we're hearing voices.
100%.
Like, so the next question is, and do you hear voices often? And how you know, how many voices do you hear?
Yeah,
and
all the time. Something will happen, like just anything random in life, and I will hear Dean or Viking have a comment about what just happened. And it's not even like my thought, it's their reaction, how they would be. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Well, and the first time I realized that I was different than most people, you know, in an artistic way, not just being a different kind of dude, but I was talking with a friend who's still a really great friend of mine. She actually works with me at Blue Handle now, but we were working at the newspaper at the time, and I was sitting there like, you know, just kind of going through the motions of, I don't even know, we were preparing to go out to a bar or something like that, like a big, you know, work friend group thing. And I was like narrating, you know, what I was doing or whatever, kind of talking to myself. And my friend was like, so talking to yourself, huh? And I was like, well, yeah. And people talk to themselves. That's not a big deal. But it was the way I was doing it. I was, you know, writing, you know, as if I was not doing a novelization of that scene of me getting ready to go out, you know, to. And so she was like, no, that's definitely weird. And I was like, really? That's weird? And so now, because I was, you know, actually voicing it, yeah, that was, you know, not everybody does that. But that's how I was thinking. And I was only voicing that because that is the voice that was going on in my head. I just happened to say it all out loud. But
Can I ask if you were doing it in third person, first person, third person removed?
I was, and this is another reason why it was probably strange, is it actually was third person. I was not doing I wasn't using I. And so it was doing like I was narrating, and I told her, it's like I'm narrating to an audience. What? It's not that weird. She's like, yes, it is. In fact, it is strange for you to be narrating a scene in third person to an audience. So, so yeah, no, we definitely, so it is not weird to say that, Jennifer. We are thankful that you felt comfortable enough to say that, but you know, you are among friends. We all know what that is like. Absolutely. Whenever you're creating people out of whole cloth, yeah, they live inside you, and for the rest of your life, you know, they're going to be there. So because you get so in depth with the characters, I do have another question. You know, you obviously, people are asking for more books in this series, but do you ever see that shiny object over here and like, ooh, I could write a series about that person, or ooh, this is a great character. I wonder, you know, or are you pretty still trying to explore the people that are in the world that you've created right now?
I have plans for, like, Legion, and Viking is another fan favorite that I will do like full-size books for. I may do like novella, you know, length ones for the other two, Axel and Cherry. Yes, because people love Axel and Cherry. But I do have other things I want to write about. I deleted the whole thing. I wrote a mafia romance set in Prohibition era, and I deleted the whole thing. I deleted everything I've ever written. I know. I was going through a really bad time in my life, and I deleted everything I ever wrote. I almost actually deleted Savior also. I'm really bad about that. I'm really bad about. I have borderline personality disorder, and one of our traits is self-sabotage, and I'm just so horribly good at that. But yeah, I do have plans to write other series. I would like to reconstruct that mafia one.
Tanya said Lucinda. Is there going to be a Lucinda book?
No.
So now I have to ask, who is Lucinda, and why will she never get
God.
Lucinda
is the most hated thing I've ever written.
I want a Lucinda book. I want a Lucinda
book. We're all like girl power, but we want the most horrible things to happen to
horrible. It's a horrible person.
Somebody 3-starred me on book 2 because nothing too bad happened to Lucinda.
You had a villain who didn't get the correct amount of comeuppance. Okay.
Yeah, they were so mad at me. I was just like, I mean, but honestly, if you read my book and you know my characters, I feel like you would know, like, Dean is not the type of man that would ever lay hands even on Lucinda.
No, but Vana could.
Well, no, she couldn't. No, she couldn't.
Vana could do it.
No, she couldn't. Not in book 2.
Not in book 2. In book 3, she can, though.
Yeah, well, book 3, something happens. Will it live up to what they want to have happen to her based on their messages that they sent me? I don't know.
Is it Vana or is it
with the little girl? What?
Is it Vana or is it Legion?
I'm not going to tell you.
That's because it's Legion and Vana doesn't get to. Okay, I'm moving.
No, we don't know that. We don't know that.
Yes, I do. I'm muting.
I have to think Colleen is giving us some gifts. Thank you so much, Colleen. She is the wife of my boss, Charles, and Colleen is a huge fan and patron of books and reading and this show. So thank you, Colleen. We do appreciate it. It's I suffer a little bit from thinking of these other projects that I think would be really good, and because I've started thinking a little bit about stuff for the screen as opposed to characters for novels and stuff. I definitely, the way you go about that sometimes is you think of the concept and you think of the pitch first, and then you actually write out the scenes, in final draft and all that. So lately I've definitely been going like, oh, hey, that would be a cool idea, or that'd be a cool idea. And so it's like, how far do I take you? Do I just lay in my bed and think, okay, well, I'll dismiss that? And a lot of times it's the ones that keep popping up are the ones that I have to do. Divided States was that way. That's the last book I wrote, and it's doing well in award season and all that stuff. And it was one that was not going to go away. And so the limited series that I'm working on based on a true story now for the screen is another one that, I gave it some time and it's not going away. So I decided, well, I need to just go ahead and write this thing, get the pitch done and get these episodes written. And, then, because I really think I have something here. And so I definitely have other book ideas that are just not the one I was working on, because my novels tend to be character studies, dark, gritty, personal, but they are not, they're not high concept and they don't do well in a pitch. So if I, tried to sell it for, a payday is difficult, even though what I produce is really good. So, it's that art versus comment, or art versus commerce thing we were talking about earlier. And I have not self-published anything yet because, whenever I started writing fiction and I got my first contracts, it was in like 2017 and 2018. And that it seems like, an entire, industry has, really evolved so much. Back then self-publishing was one thing, and now independent publishing is this completely other thing in like 4 or 5 years. So I definitely, it's an area that I haven't explored, but it has also made this room for small traditional presses, which is who I work for and who pays my bills, and where I get to do a lot of my editing, and I get a steady paycheck for it. And I am eternally grateful for that, because I have done other jobs where it was for the money and it was hard work, and it was not nearly as enjoyable as what I do now. So I'm very, very, very thankful for that. Oh, and it looks like Charles, my boss, has joined us. His ears always seem to burn, and then he gets onto the live. So it's interesting how every time I'm talking about Blue Handle, he pops in. All right, so now the cat has decided that it is taking over Tanya's and my show, but we're okay with it. That's fine.
This is Odin.
We're not mad.
Jen's character Viking has a tattoo of Odin on his bicep, and obviously
it's probably the cat. Yeah, it's probably what it looks like.
I have two cats that are on the other side of this partition, and they would not ever agree to come on the show, because one is very skittish and one just doesn't like me. So they're actually my roommate's cats.
These two are rescues. They're brothers, and they are so incredibly codependent that I have to put them in the front room when I record, because they will come and Dresden knocks on the door. And Odin goes to the one vent in the sound booth and starts howling. It's it's a tag team. So yeah. And it starts about 11:30 in the morning, so they have to go in the front room at that time. Yeah.
Thank you for the lights, Charles. By the way, I do like those lights, and it looks like they're not just something that was here for Christmas, and so that is wonderful. Tanya, even though she should not be gifting on her own show, did a whale the other day, which was awesome. So Tanya, don't you do the whale, but somebody do the whale, because that is the coolest thing I've seen on here yet. It flew through this water time portal. It made a noise. It was great. But no, that's my roommate's cats. They every once in a while will yell at the door, even though she goes to work every day at the same time. She has a 9 to 5, and she's very consistent about her schedule. Just randomly during the middle of the day, they'll be like, "Where are you?" And I'm like, she's in the same place she is every day, Pinky, trying to take over the world. Like, geez Louise, But they're cats, and they will cat, and there's nothing you can do about it. A dog you can train, a cat you can't.
So Rick has hinted at it, and Tanya straight up asked, but I'm curious too. Jen, have you ever thought of writing another series? Has any other series jumped into your brain that you wanted to write?
Yeah, I want to reconstruct the Prohibition era one that I deleted.
The Prohibition era,
yeah. Yeah. And maybe do something paranormal. I would like to try to write horror. I think that's a challenge, to write something that actually scares people.
Legion kind of delves into that, though.
Yeah, I'm talking
Legion's not a romance.
No, and his book won't be romance either. Sorry, guys.
There's no happy ever after for Legion, y'all.
Yeah, it's not.
Therefore, cannot be romance.
Yeah, it won't be categorized as romance, even though the characters from book 1 or 2 will be in that book too. It's not going to be.
So when you're saying horror, what are you thinking?
Like Stephen King-ish.
Nice.
I just want to try to write something scary. I want somebody to be like, whoa. Just challenge myself. It'll probably be short, like a novella maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Just to try. I didn't think it'd ever make anybody cry, but apparently people cried in 1 and 2.
Well,
Savior.
That's a compliment.
Just to challenge myself.
37 and 1 made me bawl.
Yeah.
What happened?
The chapter 37 and 1 made me bawl. There's video evidence.
Yeah. That got my husband too, and he doesn't cry.
Yeah.
Yeah. And horror is a genre where the novella is a very popular length. Short story and novella. Horror kind of lives in that world, and I think it's its own. The Bram Stoker Awards. I think they even have a specific novella category and stuff like that. So the person whose job it is to try to acquire stuff that sells. A horror novella is definitely something that would definitely gain traction. And it would be interesting, I think, as an exercise for you to try to write something that short
Yeah,
and
that's what I was
see
gonna
if you
just do
could.
to see if I could do it.
Yeah,
That's
I don't trust Jen.
I don't have a
I don't
story
trust
in
Jen.
mind.
I think Jen's concept of a novella might be a 10-hour book. I'm not sure. I just don't trust it.
Hey, I can write short. Look, I wrote this one. I mean, granted, it's my path of witchcraft. The one I published it for my students, but that's short. I don't know how short I can do story wise because like I said, I just love the depth. I love getting in there.
Mm-hmm.
So
And that's what readers really like. And it's so awesome. I love to hear a story like yours where you wrote something that was an outlier, that was longer and did these things that it played with the genre a little bit, but it worked, and you've done very successful with it. And so it's as much as we try to acquire stuff that that we can add value and sell and make money at. We also at Blue Handle and the entire philosophy is to try to disrupt things a little bit. So with the stuff that we published, is not always definitely stuff that the big five has not looked at, and we're proud that we were the ones that got to publish those stories. And so I love hearing about independent creators doing something different and finding success, because that I think hopefully gives all of us hope that our artistic vision, if we stay true to that, we can reap those kind of benefits. And yeah, Charles is down there like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, that's we recently were trying to acquire a book that had an agent representing it, and no longer does, but the author still sent it to their old agent, as a friend, like, hey, look over this contract and see what's what. And the agent literally said, so this publisher, are they trying to like completely change the way that publishing works? And it's like, actually, kind of a little bit, yeah. The way we do our royalty structure and our subsidiary rights and stuff like that.
It's a bad thing.
Yeah, no, and so it's like, to us that's a badge of honor. I love hearing that, and like I said, it's not something I hadn't specifically discussed that with this author. That's just the feedback that agent had based on our contract and what we're trying to do. And it's like, yes, that is what we're doing. We're doing what we're intending to do. Tanya, I'm not sure. No, it's not who you're thinking of. I don't think, anyway. But no, so I thought that was absolutely awesome that was the feedback we were getting, because the big traditional publishing has its flaws, and it's not very author friendly, and we are trying to find a way to where everybody is happier and everybody gets more of their content out there. And if we can't publish your book because we're small and we can only publish so many, we're always trying to help people out. We talk about stuff on this show. I'm on the phone 3 or 4 times a week with people who just want advice, and so we don't charge for any of that stuff. And Charles is never sure whether or not he's crazy or stupid, because it's definitely anytime you try to disrupt something, you have moments of both. You have moments like I was describing where it's like, yes, somebody gets it, and then there are times where it's like, we how on earth can we sell more books, which is every author's thing that they're trying to figure out, except maybe for Jen, who does absolutely no marketing.
I don't know how. I suck at it.
I'm no good at it either. Author Ricky is really not very great now. Editor Ricky, is good at talking about what he does, and gets clients and does his book editing. But author Ricky, selling his wares is not nearly as good. So, for those of you who are coming in late, that crack about Jen not doing any marketing. She wrote a book, Savior, that is too hot to advertise on Facebook. Facebook will not let her advertise her book. So you need to check it out. You need to read the book that Facebook doesn't want you to read. I'm telling you, you really could make some memes like that, and like read the book that Facebook doesn't want you to read. Too hot to advertise on Facebook. Like I said, that'll just get them in the door, and then they'll read your Amazon description, so don't feel like you're.
Yeah, they need to read the Amazon. I don't like false advertising. My book is not. It's not a smut
It's not
book.
false advertising. It's accurate, and if somebody doesn't actually read the book description, that's on them, not on you.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah.
I've tried to let that stop bothering me.
It's funny. I haven't run into an author who's
It's so weird how readers don't actually read things.
Well, and so I was about to say, some of my one-star reviews are from people who did not appreciate that I dropped the F-bomb in my books. Now,
don't read my book.
Was I liberal with it in my debut where I was depicting life in a newsroom? Yes. I mean, I was actually trying to be quite accurate when I now realize that in fiction I can make things not quite so, just like a sailor all the time. But the point is that I wrote a book, and in the description it described ritualized, murder, like kind of a serial killer in the making type stuff. Did you expect it not to have cursing? Like, what kind of book were you expecting to read?
No. Ritualized unaliving is fine, but curse words, absolutely not.
I know. I can.
You can't make everybody happy,
and
you just gotta accept that.
I live in the buckle of the Bible Belt. You know what I mean? Like, we are
me too.
The most conservative media, because TV news is kind of broken down by media markets, as our, and that's what politicians look at, the media markets. Ours is the most conservative in the country, in the Texas Panhandle. Or
wait, where's the buckle?
What's up?
Where's the buckle?
I call it the buckle. It's the Texas Panhandle.
Okay. No, I'm in North Carolina.
Yeah, and so we are the most conservative media market in the country. We're the reddest of the red, and so I understand, and in my real life, now that I'm not always stressed out and I'm not working in a newsroom, I definitely filter things out. I use euphemisms and all that stuff because it's just, it is. I live in a society, if I'm out in public. But I always wonder, what about the description of my book made you think that I was not going to have the F-bomb at all? And why would you think that the language would be clean? The murder's fine, blood dripping down and people, bathing in the blood of the little girl that's coming out. Like, that was not a real thing that happened. I'm just making stuff up. But it's they're fine with that kind of stuff. But you drop a few F-bombs and it's a 1-star. And another writer who can't come up with a more clever, you know what? Sometimes you curse. That's just the world that we live in. People have been saying the F word since, Roman times. Maybe not Roman times, but I mean, it's not like it's, a new thing. Let's see. So what about weird. Alabama? Where is that? I think they're the book.
That's like the third belt hole that's used all the damn time in terms of the Bible.
So we are coming up on 2
right,
hours.
I said
everybody.
Third hole.
Third hole. And obviously the whole South, is kind of the Bible Belt and all that stuff. But like I said, I was going on empirical, poll-driven data evidence of the most conservative media market. But I think it's about time for us to kind of start wrapping up. So what I would like to do is, I know, Jennifer, you've already kind of done this, but why don't we go around and let everyone know where they can find us other than on TikTok. And if you're not following all 4 of us already here on TikTok, please do, because we love all of that. And, every one of our followers counts. We're not quite YouTube like and subscribe on every single video, but we do love getting all those follows. So why don't we start with you, PJ? Do you have a clearinghouse, a link tree, a website, something?
Oh, wow. No, Paige looks at me knowingly. No, the best way to find out my stuff is to just type my name in, and the first thing that'll come up will be a link to all of my books. If you type in PJ Freebourne into Google, first thing that comes up is I think it's Audible, the selection of all the books that you can find on Audible, and I think all of them are something I've done with Paige anyways. So you could probably even do better just to go to Paige and go to her link tree and find all my stuff there. So I'll pass it on to Paige to find better ways to find our
Yeah,
stuff.
somebody replied to your comment page, and I thought it was funny. I'm not going to read it because I don't want us to get kicked out 2 minutes from being there at the end. But
Yeah.
that's a funny comment about the belt buckle hole. But so Paige,
So,
then where can we find you and PJ? Where can we find your stuff?
Isla is also one of my authors, so it's fine. um, yes, so I have a link tree in my profile and also a website where we've got our rates laid out should you want to hire us as a pair. However, he's not available until August, and if you want it faster than that, I am available. And I do men's voices just fine, thank you. Anyway, um, yeah, I can't think of anything else to say.
All right, and then Jennifer, go ahead and rehash what you told the folks earlier. It's been about an hour. They might have forgotten.
I'm on Instagram and Facebook, kinda. I have a link tree in my Bible, in my profile that you can that you can that you can find them all there. It's there. You can click it.
yes.
I don't know where that came from.
Oh man, we're all getting the late night giggles, and I'm pretty sure that Paige has had half a bottle of wine, so that. Oh my gosh! All right, so yeah,
So I'm totally
you
sober, okay?
can find me at ricktreon.com, and that's sort of the clearinghouse for all my social medias. Like almost none of it is the same name, and one of them is my initials. Like I was a beta tester for both Twitter and I was in like the second round. If you've seen the Social Network, I was in that second round of colleges at UT that was allowed to use Facebook. So I've been on those for forever. And back then, I wasn't thinking about branding and that they should all read the same. And I wasn't even thinking about being an author. I was going to be a news reporter. And anyway, so I would go to ricktreon.com and you can find my social media there. You can find links to my books and my online courses and all that stuff. But right now, the link on my TikTok profile, I'm going to leave it up there, I think, for one more week, is a link to subscribe to my newsletter. And we were talking earlier about, we're all our own brand and we all have fans. I encourage all authors, if you don't have an author newsletter, to start one. Most of the places it's free up to like 500 people. And I am so fortunate. I'm closing in on 1,000 subscribers. So I'm actually about to make the transition over to Substack. So we'll see how that goes because they don't have, you don't have to pay them anything for any amount of subscribers, which is really nice. And they're just about the only service that does that. So a lot of authors I've seen more and more, the authors whose newsletters I'm part of, they send and their Substack now. So I think I'm going to go ahead and give that a try, but it'll be ricktreon.com probably starting sometime next week. Thank you, everybody, for showing up down in the comments. We had more than 14,000 likes on this live, and that is by far the most for us, so that is incredible. Thank you all so much, and all the great gifts, and thank you to our guests. This was a really great panel and a real pleasure, and it was nice to talk to both ends of sort of the same project in Savior and hear how you all interacted. So that was all great. And yes, thank you to Odin and Dresden for their pop-ins. That I know that made a lot of our days. And I think at least 4,000 of those likes are for the cats because it was around 10,000. Then the cats came on, and then everything exploded. I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. And, we'll be back on, the same bat time, the same bat channel next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central, and with a new round of guests. So thanks, everybody, and have a good night.
Good night, everybody. Thank you. Bye. Yes, me.